I would like to direct the first question to the incumbent Senator Dr. Campbell, and then of course the same question will be directed to the others on the podium. Like any political race where the incumbent is running for re-election, it's all about the incumbent. Starting with Dr. Campbell, please tell us why you think you should be re-elected, or the others, please tell us why you think Dr. Campbell should not be re-elected. Dr. Campbell?
Thank you. I want to say thank you to the Chamber for having this event. You know, I'm very proud to be here, and I'm very honored to serve as your senator. First, a little bit more about me. I'm a wife, mother, an emergency room physician, as you said, and a woman of faith. Looking at that is what our forefathers meant when we talked about who is eligible to serve. 2 years ago, I was elected, and I hit the road running. I served on the committees he talked about, which were education, transportation, veterans affairs, jurisprudence, as well as vice chair of nominations. I quickly developed good relationships in order to work with other senators with my goal to strengthen not just our district, but to make Texas stronger. I love the challenge, and I did what the voters asked me to do. I am pro-business. We cut taxes, and my record shows that. I thank the Chamber for having this debate, and I do look forward to answering questions.
Councilwoman Chan.
Yes, and I'd also like to thank the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce for hosting today's event. And I can tell you that when I first started running for this race, I wanted to just provide the voters an alternative to provide my experiences, skill sets, and also qualifications. However, after just 3 months on the campaign trail, I have learned that Senator Campbell has flipped several of her positions when she campaigned. So I'm running now also is to bring the truth to the voters. I think voters should have the opportunity to learn what Senator Campbell campaigned for before elected and her voting records after got elected.
Mr. Novak?
Likewise, it's good to see my chamber friends here. Many of you, I think most of you, I'm a former, as you mentioned, former chairman of this chamber, and many of you I've had a long-standing friendship with you. I've worked on the front lines with you on many issues in this community. My point being, it's a long-standing relationship with many of you, and I got to think about that. Well, it just might be because I'm from here. You know, I didn't come in from Houston, or the Columbus area. I've been engaged in this community. I'm a native from here, and I understand the nuances of our issues. One thing you might not know about me, though, is that Novak is Czech, and I grew up mentored and tutored by my grandfather, the greatest generation. He was a World War II vet, and my family was masons by trade. In fact, I could build you a heck of a fireplace by the time I was 12 years old. But we drive up I-35, folks, and this is an absolute true story. Grandpa would look over, back then the skyline was such an awesome, you could see the Capitol. He said, Mikey, there's a steel mill. I said, Grandpa, that's the Capitol. And he goes, no, it's a steel mill. That's where they steal all your money, you know? And here I am, my first exposure to the Capitol. And now, you know, I know Grandpa's looking down. He talks to me, you know, and he's saying, Mike, he says, you need to do, like I did a tour of duty in World War II, you need to do a tour of duty, another tour of duty. I did one as a county commissioner, made a big difference. You need to do a tour of duty at the state capitol because we've got some problems there. Transportation, water, and education, folks. I got 6 little grandkids under the age of 6 years old. And what Grandpa's telling me, he said, we're at a crossroads. Do you want to take those critical issues that could destroy our quality of life in Texas and in this district? And you got a choice. We can punt it to the next generation, to those little kids, those little grandkids of mine, or we can get in and fix the problem. And that's the biggest issue I have with the incumbent is that, you know, we didn't fix any problems. You know, we kicked the can down the road.
Thank you very much. The first question is for Dr. Campbell. Senator, some of your votes in the state Senate have been baffling to some of your constituents. You sponsored legislation to create the Needmore Municipal Utility District against the wishes of people in Hays County. And you voted against the measure to allow development of Hemisphere Park here in San Antonio. Your fellow Republican, Lyle Larson, has publicly said you don't understand a lot of the things you're voting on. Could you please tell us about these votes, especially the vote against the Hemisphere Park development?
Sure, let me start with the Hemisphere Park first. The Hemisphere Park bill involved a land swap for public use that circumvented the voters. My opposition to the bill was not opposition to redevelopment of Hemisphere Park. You're not going to find a stronger advocate of economic development than I am. But more importantly, I support giving voters a say when it comes to stewardship of their dollars. This bill intentionally cut voters out of the process. And I didn't want to see a repeat of the streetcar project, where taxpayers feel disenfranchised with how their transportation dollars are being spent. Now about the mud, this is a great place to talk about the economic development that a mud brings. Everybody in here probably can appreciate the municipal utility district and what that brings. It's an important tool to promote economic development. It's the funding mechanism that allows infrastructure to be built at the smallest level. Now the MUD district, which both of my opponents are obviously against the establishment of MUDs because they have talked about that. The MUD that got the most attention was one in Wimberley, 5,000 acres of personal property. It does not touch any extraterritorial jurisdiction of Wimberley, nor does it, and obviously not the city limits. We made it so that it is not a taxing entity. He cannot drill for any underground water, and if he sets up a septic system, he has to do it with the city of Wimberley. MUDs are a tool by which we can develop infrastructure, and it's at the least amount of government. That's private property rights, and I stand for private property rights.
Mr. Novak, let me go to you to respond to both her vote against Hemisphere Park and the MUD issue.
Well, I want to focus on the mud because that's a very contentious issue, particularly in Hays County. And I need to remind folks too that this District 25 is all our parts of 6 counties, and it's interesting the culture of each part of this district. It's all unique, and you get up to Hays County, Jim, where you're talking about that mud particularly. Let me just talk about a theme of common sense. Common sense goes a long way, and I want to take exception to Donna's interpretation of that mud. Not all muds are evil. They are an economic development tool. But you take the culture of that community out there in Hays County around Wimberley, it's unique. It's a precious part of our hill country. And to carve out a 4 to 5,000 acre mud without even consulting with the community, that's not the kind of senator you want. You've got to have a lot of people skills. You've got to be sensitive to your constituents. And particularly since it's a South Texas family with a history of being Democrats, and to come in and to start developing a 5,000 acre tract up there doesn't make any sense with the water issues. It just doesn't make any sense. Where's the common sense? And it's not a property rights issue. This is an entitlement, folks. You're creating bigger government. You're creating a new subdivision of the state. It's not an automatic right. You have to go to your senator or go to your member of your legislature. They have to carry that bill for you. And it is a taxing authority. There's no way that it cannot be a taxing authority. That's the purpose of a MUD.
We'll give Senator Campbell an opportunity to respond, but first of all, Councilwoman Chan.
I wanted to also talk about working with people and working closely. And I think that's something I have done in my 5 years tenure on council, and I have worked with many of you in this room in the past. And I think that's very important, and that certainly also talk about the MUD, which is something that is a tool, but it needs to be supported by the local community. And I came here in this country in 1988 as a graduate student because I believe that United States, America is the land of opportunity. And if you work hard and if you're determined enough, anything can happen. And I think that has been my story because I was able to overcome adversity, the cultural differences, the language barrier, and then started a business with my husband 21 years ago, and also got elected in 2009 to City Council, the first immigrant to be elected in San Antonio City Council. San Antonio has been very good to me. The community, the people, they have given me the opportunity not only to help me build a successful business, but also allowed me to serve. And I think that's one of the reasons why I ran and I continue to run for public office, is to give back. But again, the MUD is really, I think Senator Campbell talked about property rights. The owner's property right has never been taken away. He could develop the land the way it is, but that MUD, what happened was the taxing, the increase of the tax, instead of going to the elected local community, it's going to offset the development cost of that developer. That is the difference here, ladies and gentlemen. But we understand that we also use that tool in San Antonio, but you have to have the conversation and the support of the local community, also local official. In this case, it did not happen.
Senator Campbell, if you could respond briefly, I assume that you are a supporter of municipal utility districts and will continue to create them where you see fit.
I do. I am a supporter of municipal utility districts. They are not all alike. Anybody reading that, it's the Needmore Ranch, you can go look at it. Anybody reading the bill will find this one does not have taxing authority. He cannot, I basically preserved 5,000 acres, but he cannot touch the underground water. And if he wants to have a sewage system, he has to develop it shared with Wimberley. I disagree having someone, I mean, imagine yourself, you've got property, you're blessed and you have some property, 5,000 acres, and you want to do something with it. There is a tool in the toolbox to help develop utilities, and somebody wants you to go have a city take a vote for what you want to do on your own property when you know they don't want it. No, that is not standing up for private property rights.
Thank you, Senator. If I could turn the next question to Councilwoman Chan. There are some worries being raised by Republicans, we ran a news story on this just today, that some of the rhetoric being used by the 4 Republicans running for lieutenant governor, talking about an invasion of immigrants, for example, is demonizing immigrants and driving them away from the Republican Party. Councilwoman Chan is an immigrant herself. What is the proper position of the Republican Party on immigration, and would you support sanctuary city movements and other border control efforts which are so popular among Tea Party groups?
Thank you for that question. And I am an immigrant. I'm a legal immigrant. And I have to go through a lot of different rules and waiting in order to become a legalized citizen. I became citizen in 1999. I don't believe that we should be a sanctuary city. I think people should not break the laws. And one of the reasons why this country is great is because we are law-abiding citizens. And that makes our country different. So I do not believe that we should break the laws and should not incentivize people who does. I do think that people, the border security is important because we know that a lot of crimes is happening down the border. But then also people come to this country because we provide opportunities, because our dreams, our American dreams can be fulfilled. I do think that we need to look into a lot of the work programs so that we can make it easier for people who want to come to this country and become useful and productive and pay taxes, to have an easier way to become a legal citizen and become a legal, working, productive citizen.
Did you know that?
Border security is very important, but again, I'm trying to have kind of a conversation with you here, not just a response. And I'm going to tell you, my grandfather, I spoke about, he spoke Czech first, he spoke Spanish second, because he grew up in a West Side neighborhood here, and I grew up, my Tex-Mex got pretty good. My point being is that, you know, that's the culture. You know, our state's got different components too, but particularly here in this district, particularly in Bexar County, it's part of our culture. We all came from someplace. So my thought on this is that we can't have chaos, Jim. There's got to be an order. There needs to be a pathway right now for legalization. You need to create a path. But the integration right now, we're talking to the Chamber of Commerce group here, the integration of the folks that immigrated, whether it's first generation, second generation, even those that are illegal, it's here. I mean, it's all melded together now. And we need to, I'm not for amnesty, but there needs to be a pathway. That doesn't mean you ship people back to Mexico. So there's got to be an order to this, and this is really more of a federal issue, Jim, than I think a state Senate issue. Now, as far as border security, I'm going to tell you, when it comes to the drug problem, as we all know, the border's changed dramatically. I mean, I used to go down to Laredo or Brownsville or, you know, Matamoros all the time. You can't do that anymore. It's a problem, but I'm going to tell you, I had one company, Jim, where I built drug interdiction radars infrastructure in the jungles of Central and South America. I mean, I know this stuff. I mean, I know the security part of it. And we've got to protect the border when it comes to the crime issue.
Senator Campbell, do you support a pathway to citizenship? Do you support sanctuary city programs?
Thank you for the question. I do support immigration reform. I do not support amnesty. I have an obligation to protect Texas, and I have, as a senator, the task to clean up the mess the federal government leaves behind. It's cost the state of Texas hundreds of millions of dollars. The illegal portion of immigration. I've been to the border. Our obligation extends to protecting our citizens. We put more dollars down there for boots on the ground, boats in the water, planes in the air. We have a drawbridge project that we fund where it's many deer cameras to watch traffic across the river. And our officers are able to notify Border Patrol and let them know where those coming illegally are crossing. Now, the burden that what it really is causing is the financial burden on our state with the education dollars, the health care dollars, the dollars that they make in working going not into our local economy, some does, but not all of it, going into a foreign economy. I'd like to see those dollars kept here. You know, part of my job is protection against those that come across, you know, we have to strengthen our borders to protect against the narco gangs and the drugs and the trafficking. But you know, we've got a lot of job opportunities here in America. And we have good workers here, but also in our foreign countries. And I would like to see immigration reform include a way to match workers with the jobs. I am against sanctuary cities because that is illegal.
To follow up, do you agree with your likely nominee for governor that the Rio Grande Valley is like a third world country?
Agree with who?
Greg Abbott's comment is kind of creating some buzz on the campaign trail where he went down to Brownsville and said that the Rio Grande Valley reminds him of a third world country.
Well, I'm not sure what he is meaning by that. I've been in third world countries where I practiced ophthalmology, done hundreds of eye surgeries. I've been to the border. It doesn't look like a third world country to me. But I think the real issue is America is a great country and Texas is a great state. I would want to come here. So what we need to try to do is fix our immigration policy and strengthen Texas, not allow those things that can weaken our economy. So I'm not sure the countries he's been to. I just know the third world country I practiced in has has a whole lot of issues they need to take care of.
Councilwoman Chan, you're an immigrant, you have a lot of experience in other countries. First of all, you never really addressed the sanctuary city issue, if you would support or oppose the sanctuary city, which has come up in the legislature the last 2 sessions. And do you agree that the Rio Grande Valley is a third world country?
I do not support sanctuary city, and I don't believe Rio Grande Valley is a third world country. I've been to third world country, and I have seen what Americans have, all the resources that we have here. A lot of people lose sight of what we have in this country. A lot of things that are taken for granted. I think we have a wonderful country. I think whatever you would like to achieve in this country, you can. It's just a matter of whether you have the will, the determination, and also the hard work. There's no excuse for anyone in this country not to succeed.
Mr. Novak, let me turn to you for the next question. You have based your campaign on your business experience. Businesses in Texas are sometimes criticized because Texas has some of the lowest wages in the country, has the highest percentage of people who are uninsured. The issue of raising the minimum wage has been raised by the president and by a lot of other countries. In the legislature, do you think it's time to take steps to raise the Texas minimum wage?
No, absolutely not. I'm a free market guy, Jim, and the free market needs to be dictating the wages. You know, I'm a small businessman. I've had my own businesses since I was 28 years old, and now I'm mentoring my sons, that next generation, to their own businesses. And to have those types of mandates, it's hard enough to exercise that entrepreneurial spirit that our free enterprise system allows us, Jim, without stacking on imposed things like wage rates. So the answer is no, no, no.
Councilwoman Chan?
No, as a small business owner, of course, I think the beauty of this country is because you have the system that anybody can start and become entrepreneur. When you start to make a lot of making the steps so high, it will be very difficult for people to start a business in your garage, for example, or one person just wanted to have a great ideas. And I think the market itself will be able to adjust that in terms of demand and supply, so I will not be in favor of increasing the minimum wage.
Dr. Campbell?
You know, as a lawmaker, I continue to work in the emergency room even while the session was going. I never missed a vote. I had perfect attendance. As a doctor, I know business. I know the components of business, service, the efficiencies, the budget that you need. And the more you have government or someone else in your business, the worse it is. It cuts down on productivity. But the real story here is there's a lot of folks that have business experience and in the legislature, but they will work to add mandates, increase taxes, regulations on businesses, such as setting wages, and that's bad policy. So having someone who can just say, well, I've been in business, that doesn't necessarily equate to making good business decisions when it comes to law making. I believe it's a principle thing. I believe in a free enterprise society, unencumbered by government interference or subsidies. So I do not believe that lawmakers should set wages, nor should the lawmakers mandate any other policies, like you have to have health insurance. Obamacare is bad for business, yet they're trying to mandate you have to do this. I am against big government coming in and affecting our small businesses. We're the small business that keeps our economy going. So I am against government making a decision about wages.
Thank you. You mentioned Obamacare. We'll get to that in a second, along with key issues of toll roads and water, which are very, very important for this area. But first of all, another issue, which is kind of a side issue, but has popped up in the last couple of days. Governor Perry says he would support the decriminalization of possession of small amounts of marijuana. Senator Davis just said that she would also support that and supports medical marijuana. It is inevitable that the 2015 legislature will face a proposal to legalize adult possession of small amounts of marijuana, just like they have done in Colorado and Washington. This movement is supported both by Democrats and Libertarian Republicans. Starting with you, Mr. Novak, how would you vote on a proposal to legalize or at least decriminalize marijuana?
It's a bad idea, and what I would do is, you've got a couple of states right now, California and Colorado, and I think that we're better off waiting to see how that plays out there. Let's let them be the guinea pig here. Let's see how it works out. It's not that I'm just totally stuck against it, but it's a bad idea right now. I think we've got more important issues to address, frankly. I'm more concerned about transportation. I'm more worried about my granddaughter crying in the back seat of my car because she can't get to her soccer game, you know, because of the traffic. I'm more worried about our strategic water supply and public education, you know. I'm going to tell you, marijuana is probably the last thing on my mind.
Councilwoman Chan.
Well, I have to agree with my colleague here. I think it's something that in the scale, in the scheme, you know, what we are facing SD 25, which is the fastest growing district in the state of Texas. I think there are other things that we need to put a focus on. But I will not be inclined to support that. And I think the reason why we're talking about this is really about the economics. About how much you spend on the other end if you do put them in jail, or whether we should spend the money in rehabilitation and so forth. But I think we can wait a little bit to see the other states and see what happens. But I also wanted to mention that I think as a small business person, I understand what it means to create jobs and also what it means to make a payroll. I have been on council for 5 years, and I have always focused on economic development as a part of my